there. I think Syracuse runs a similar scheme to you guys. Does that help you with the game this week? Maybe playing against you guys during practice and fall and all those things.
Yeah, I know they drop a lot of guys. They play that 3-week defense, and they also play 5 across and drop a guy down, like a little similar to Mississippi State as well. But I think as much as we've gone against our defense over the years, I know when Coach Gibson sort of first installed that defense, we had trouble with it, but just by going against it every day in practice, now it's a lot easier for us, and we feel pretty confident going against that type of defense.
Todd Gibson.
Yeah, Thayer, coach talked about all that you guys still had to look forward to in this season, that it all wasn't lost after the Wake Forest game. Have you latched onto that idea and move forward and feeling pretty good about where this team can get to?
Yeah, I mean, it just first of all, it starts with us. Like, we just gotta take the next 2 games one game at a time, and then also know in the back of our head that Wake goes and plays at Clemson, and I know Clemson hasn't lost at home in probably 30+ games. So it's definitely a challenge for Wake Forest to go there and beat Clemson at Clemson. And then you never know, they go to Boston College on their senior day at the end of November, which is going to be probably a cold game, and they got their quarterback back. So, I think we're very confident in ourselves to finish out the way we're supposed to. And then also we know that we still have a chance at this thing. We just got to do our part and then hope and pray.
So you guys are actually holding out hope that you can still get a share of the ACC title. I mean, is that the case for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, if we take care of business and then things play out like I think they will, we definitely have a chance to go to Charlotte. But once again, we just gotta, we gotta focus on Syracuse, and then once we do that, we got to focus on the next game and just take care. Everything will take care of itself.
David Thompson.
Yeah, Thayer, with just the amount of guys who are limping off the field against Wake Forest, was there an extra emphasis on rest and recovery this week, and maybe some guys just taking a little more time to take care of their bodies? Yeah,
I think our team's pretty a veteran group. So each week after a game, you're always sort of banged up. Everybody sort of feels the same, but that's everywhere in college football. Everybody sort of feels that at this time of the year. So I think we have a very veteran, older group, which understands the importance of getting your recovery in. Like on a Monday, you're in the training room for multiple hours doing what you're supposed to do in the cold tubs. And then just knowing the importance of getting your sleep at night. I think everybody just sort of is taking that very seriously at this time of the year, just because, it could give you an edge on the field on Saturday.
Jonas?
Speaking of an edge, you had a pretty good game against Syracuse last year. How much do you personally go back and watch that film to see what worked well for you against this same team a year ago?
Yeah, I looked at the game last night. I'll probably look at the game again today. Obviously, they'll probably watch that film as well and try to fix things that they definitely didn't have, I guess, the great game plan for like they did last year. But you look at that film and just try to see what worked, see what didn't work. And obviously they're going to try to fix the things that worked for us. But yeah, you watch it. I watched, every game that we played last year, the team we played this year, I go back and watch that game. And even when we played Louisville 2 weeks ago, I went back and watched the 2019 game. Yeah, I do that usually for every game. So yeah, it's very helpful to have film on yourself against an opposing team.
Alec?
Yeah, Thayer, both for you guys, both of the other losses this year, have been close and tough games on the road, but then you've come back the next week at home and been able to, really take care of business. You kind of touched on it a little bit ago with the maturity and the rest and recovery, but what is it about this group that's kind of allowed you guys to be able to, kind of flush those losses and bounce back?
Yeah, I think maybe in times before where it's like, I don't know, maybe in years prior, we've had a loss, but it's sort of been more of a, there's been a couple of losses where we really haven't been in the game. This year, it's almost like every loss, I feel like we're right there. Like, we understand like how good we are, and we don't let a loss here, a loss there sort of define what we think of ourselves and what we think of the season. I think we just do a great job of sort of flushing it and have the confidence that we're still a great team, and we can go out and we'll go win every game. We have a chance to win every game that we play. So We know that going into every game. And I mean, with the final 2 weeks coming up on the line, we know how much is at stake. You know, people wanted to say the Wake Forest game was like the game of the year, but we aren't like, if we would have beat Wake Forest, this Syracuse game would be the game of the year because we would still have to win that game. So it's just taking it one game at a time, understanding like each game is just as important as the other one, is a key concept that we like to grasp onto.
Jonas?
Hey, I'm just curious. I always felt like one of the hardest things to do in a game was field a punt when it's 11 guys bearing down on you and the crowd is screaming the ball. So I kind of pull back the curtain and talk us through that experience and what's that like doing it 5 or 6 times a game. You know, like what are your keys? Like how do you like just kind of talk us through it.
Yeah, I'll go back to when I was a freshman, and just trying to find my way on the team, and I didn't have a role at all. And I started with Naheem when he my first ever college practice. He encouraged me to come catch punts just because he thought it'd be a good way to get me on the field. And my receiver coach at the time was sort of surprised I came back there. And there was 3 other guys around me at the time. It was Naheem, Jacoby, and Jay Sam, all NFL guys. And I sort of walked over there and started catching punts. And he was like, "You're not really supposed to be over here." And Naheem was like, told coach to chill out. Like I would end up being the punt returner one day. And I sort of was like, laughed about it. But then that next year it ended up happening. And my first ever return, I returned, I think, a 40-yard ball against James Madison. And ever since then, it's a tough, I think it's one of the hardest positions to do on the football field. It gets underlooked a little bit, like the toughness of being able to judge a ball, being able to see if you should return it or not, catching all these different types of kicks. Like we played Miami, the kid kicks with his right foot, his left foot. Florida State, same thing. Like the whole game, he rolls out to his right, kicks it with his right foot. And then one time in the third quarter, he rolls with to the left and kicks it with his left. And it's just so much goes into it. Like I probably catch punts 3 times a week in the offseason with Trent. I go and catch Trent Gill's punts. I have a really, consistent routine with that. And I go back to my freshman year and my sophomore year. I think I've been pretty consistent with making good decisions and good, being able to return the balls I need to return. But then again, we're not always perfect. I've dropped a few back when I was a younger player, but just so I can make sure I do the right things, I catch probably 10 to 15 punts after practice each day, just because I know how important it is to our team that I make good decisions and secure the ball. It's really hard though. I definitely think it can help me in the future at the next level for sure to make a team.
Okay, but catching 10 after practice, which are just you and Trent, is one thing. But when you're in a stadium with 60,000 people, especially on the road, and there's 11 guys bearing down on you, like what's that like?
I know it's tough. I could probably tell you every time I go out there, the other team on the sideline, they're yelling at me like, drop the ball. Like that's happened multiple times. But I know I got Gavin Locklear is a very, close guy to me on the staff. He played with me my freshman year, but he's a GA here now. But he usually lines up close to where I'm at every punt that I have to return. And he screams at the top of his lungs usually when I should return it versus when I should fair catch it. So he's sort of my eyes a little bit. And I can hear him almost every game. There's been times where I couldn't hear him, but there's been also times where I do hear him and he helps me. He has a good judge on it too. So we will sort of work together in that aspect of it, but it's tough. You gotta have some guts doing it, but I think I'm the right guy and I wouldn't want to have it any other way. So.
And I imagine tracking it in the air goes back to those baseball skills, finding that ball in the air.
Yeah, for sure. I would think, I don't know which one I would think would be harder, but definitely the spin on the ball is really like hard sometimes to track, especially when the weather's bad. Like, against Wake Forest, it was pretty windy and cold. So that had an effect on the way the ball was moving in the air. And there's been different games like on my career, like we played UNC one time, it was raining and just like, it's tough, but someone's got to do it. And I think, I've done a pretty good job of it throughout my time here. So
some people refuse to fair catch. Are you one of those guys who you would rather catch it and field it every time, or the coaches tell you like be smart and field it? Fair catch most of the time.
They tell me, they trust me to do whatever, right? So I'm a veteran guy, and they don't really get in my ear too much on what I should and shouldn't do. But there's been times where I, this year that I've actually tried to return it where I probably should have fair caught it. That might help my average a little bit more if I would have fair caught it. And then there's been a few times where I feel like I could have returned one. And I didn't, just because I didn't feel comfortable on the read of the ball or something. And they completely understand that, just based on the amount of times I've been back there and the decisions I've made in the past. So they let me free when it comes to that.
Does anybody else have anything for Thayer? Oh, Thayer, thank you very much. Appreciate you calling in.